Hey, what's up? My name is Andrew Ricketts, aka Drew Breeze, and today I'm going to live stream myself blogging on Medium. Medium.com is a blogging platform that is sort of like YouTube in that you can earn money based on how much readers engage with your work. So I've been writing on Medium for, I would say, a little over 4 years, at least consistently. Like I knew about the platform. I did one of those things where you set up a profile page and then don't really touch it or don't use it very frequently because I wasn't really sure what Medium was. I just knew I liked it. It has a really clean, natural editor. And so always wanted to try it out. And then in around 2016 or late 2016, early 2017, Medium announced that they were going to have what's called a partner program. So if any of you have been on YouTube, which is this platform before, you'll realize that a partner program is basically just a way to make money. So what the platform is telling you is that if you consistently make content here, we will reward you for making that content. So Medium's a little bit different than YouTube in that YouTube has a network of advertisers that they can always use to put, display ads on your content, which basically means that you're just making bigger billboards for YouTube every time you make a piece of content, and they always need more billboards. Like Google, which owns YouTube, or Alpha, which owns YouTube, is the biggest advertiser in the world other than Facebook. So they always need inventory. They always need places to put ads. So your YouTube video is a place where they can put ads depending on who you reach, what your audience is like. Medium is a little bit different in that there are no ads on Medium. It was founded in, I believe, 2013 by Ev Williams, who's one of the biggest founders of blogging in general. Like he's founded blogging platforms, and Twitter was kind of like a micro blogging platform when Ev Williams was part of that founding group. And then he moved over to Medium as a way to write more thoughtful content, especially if people wanted to make statements, and especially if people weren't really used to blogging. They wanted to make it really easy for you to blog. From 2014 through 17, quick backstory, basically so many people sign up for Medium pages that they discovered it would probably be advantageous for them to start some kind of partner network and reward people. Now, Medium's gone through a couple of iterations, right? So the first version of Medium it's just a blogging platform. It's free to use and it's free to post. Then as they rolled out their partner program, it became a subscription platform. So the way that you attract people to Medium as a writer and that you make money is you post content, you enter their partner program. Once you've entered their partner program, what you're doing is making a promise to Medium. And in that promise, you're saying, look, I will post content that is so strong that people who aren't on this platform will pay a premium to go check it out. So you get, I think, 5 free articles from, a trial Medium subscription. And once those 5 free articles are up for the month, you hit a paywall and you can't do any more content after that. So what Medium is saying is basically, if you bring in a subscriber who's willing to sign up and go past that paywall, we will pay you a portion of the entire revenue that all writers bring in. And that was attractive to me, especially as someone who's working in content and as someone who I definitely have not been always fond of social media. Social media can be a pretty daunting place, especially because a lot of people are posting lots of content. So just in general, it's a constant job. As soon as you decide you're going to be a person who makes content, social media is the main place you're making it for. And there are millions and millions of social media accounts. So I didn't know if I was really fully equipped to just work on any social media platform. But what I loved about Medium when I started to work with them more consistently is that I could always earn money. Like the more I wrote and the more I write on Medium, the more money I earn. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to walk through the process of writing a blog on Medium. And first, I'm going to show you some of the tools that I use, but also the process of writing on Medium. So if you'll bear with me, I'm just going to pull up some things on the screen. I'm also going to share the link out to some people in my personal network and maybe some people who might follow me on Medium. So if you will hold on for 1 second during the stream, I'll show you how I write and live blog on Medium. So let me just quickly share this link out to my feeds and really show people how excited I am to be posting on Medium, because it's one of those platforms that it doesn't really get enough credit for how much it can make a difference in people's lives. Some of the people that I follow on Medium make hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm not going to act like that's me. I don't make hundreds of thousands of dollars on Medium, but I do make hundreds of dollars, and I have made thousands of dollars working with Medium as a publication. I do have some of my biggest earning articles, and they continue to earn. So that's one thing I want to emphasize, is that this is one of the few platforms where, look, my career as a writer, I have been commissioned to write things, or I've pitched about writing on a publications platform, and then they pay me one time and that's it. I have articles on Medium that I wrote 3 years ago and they're still earning me money. Or I have an article from earlier this year. It was probably my most popular article this year. That's still paying me now, and that still picks up subscribers. And it's definitely a long game. Like, you can't expect to go on Medium within a month, even though it's possible to go on Medium within a month and start making thousands of dollars. Like, some people basically are trying to do that, and so they set up experiments and they do things that are a little bit more based on copywriting and marketing. But I only write personal essays, and so I want you to see how that process goes. And if you're a writer who focuses on other subject areas besides writing, you can still make money on Medium, and I'll show you how. So I'm just writing a post on my Twitter. I'll actually show y'all what that looks like and just pull it up on the screen. Especially because that's the fun part about going live. So I'm going live on YouTube to talk about writing personal essays on Medium for money. That's hashtags, not money. That's not the money sign, for money. Join me in the chat if you want to talk about writing or Medium or anything else. So I'm just posting this link. I really should have done a thumbnail. I should have done a thumbnail so that I could show people, a little bit more of what I'm doing, but I didn't prep a thumbnail, so I'm just going to be streaming. Oh, cool. That thumbnail actually pulled from what I was doing. So I'm going to post that also on my Facebook page. Let's pull up the Facebook page and I'll show you all that too. So I'm just going to write, I'm going live on Medium to talk about how I write personal essays for money. Again, I do the hashtag sign. I don't know why I guess because I'm on social media so much. Personal essays for money on Medium. Join me in the chat to talk about this or anything else. Okay. So, all right. So we back. So this is basically some of my process. What I do is I first you want to when you're writing an essay, especially a personal essay, you have to ask yourself a few questions. I think the first question that's most important to me is like, who am I writing this for? I do believe that every piece of writing should be addressed to someone. Maybe it's a specific person. Um, Maybe it's like a version of you. Maybe it's like the younger you that you want to hear yourself from, like a different perspective. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's a parent. But every single essay that you write, it should be for someone. So I'm gonna actually put that on screen, which is that you should target one reader. Okay. Like sometimes I've written essays that feel like they're talking to a lot of people. And the reason that they do is because they target one person. I'm thinking of one person in my life who I know how I speak to this person. I know what they are expecting of me. I know our private language that we share because we share languages and a special dialect with everyone that is in our lives. So, for instance, my best friend, we talk as often as we can. And as you get on in life, you'll see that that's not always every day or every week, but we have a secret language. So as soon as I'm engaging with my best friend, he knows the language we're speaking. He knows the inside jokes, the verbs, the turns of phrase that we like to use. And so you have to think that way when you're writing. And it's not so much about grammar because, you can use tools like Grammarly to decide how you're going to correct and keep the syntax right. But it's not about grammar. What you really want to do is figure out what is the secret language between me and my one reader, right? So sometimes when I'm thinking about how to write a personal essay, especially, there's a topic in that essay that I know is really relevant to one person. So I try to think of the person who it's most relevant to and write to them specifically. When it's a person who means a lot to me, that can be tricky because you don't want to necessarily upset or disrupt people in your life, but you can draw on the feelings that that person gives you and that you give them in order to make a more precise tonal piece. So a personal essay is only as good as how much it relates to someone, how much it relates to their experience. So in my experience, writing personal essays, some of the topics I focus on are like not easy topics, like growing up in an urban inner city, like kind of modest background, not always knowing when uh, I'm going to show up the next day. So that is one reason why it's important to take someone from your direct and immediate life and address your work to them. And that's not to say you name them. It's just like you find the secret, the private language between you and that person, and you use that language so that it's something that helps you to get familiar in what you're doing. It helps you get familiar and comfortable with the tone instead of, I think sometimes we get into this mode of essay writing that we learn in school where it's like, in this essay, I will, or, I got to lay out this point and then this point and then that point. When really a lot of writing is like letter writing or it's like text writing. Like when we talk to someone over text or in a letter or in an email, we know how we speak to that person. So it's no different when you're writing for a large audience. And in fact, you should always focus a lot more on one person when you're writing to many people, because the great thing about writing and about storytelling is that the more specific you are, both in detail and in tone, the more universal your message is going to be. So Today, I actually chose an essay. I'll show you right now on the other screen. Today, I chose an essay on the Labor Day parade. So I'm going to be writing about how when I was a kid, I hated going to the Labor Day parade. It was a terrifying experience. So that's why I chose this title. I used to hate the Labor Day parade, but that energy was better for New York. So that's the title I'm going to workshop. But the reason why I chose this title is because it conveys strong emotions, right? Like I used to hate something, but so if you know, but is one of those powerful words that you can use to turn the meaning of a sentence and to tell a story in both parts of a sentence. So I used to hate the Labor Day parade. I used to hate this thing, but that energy was better for New York. So the second part of my headline, I'm making a claim. And that gets me to my second point, which is after you target one reader, what you really want to do is make a claim, right? So you have to make a claim that someone is going to either agree with, disagree with, ask a question in their mind, like, what is this claim and how do I feel about it? So I used to hate the Labor Day parade as my first part of the claim. So someone might read that and say, I love the Labor Day parade, or why did he hate it? Or I don't know what the Labor Day parade is. It's a Caribbean parade that celebrates people of Caribbean heritage in New York, and it happens every year. So I was always there when I was a kid. Um, Either way, it starts to bring up emotions in the reader, curiosity or potential animosity, disapproval. What we're doing in the headline is we're trying to, that's the first touch point of emotion that you have when you're writing a piece. So as I decide and outline how this piece is going to go, I'm already making decisions about the emotions of the audience that I want to evoke and how I intend to reveal my own emotions by making a claim. So the first claim is, I used to hate the Labor Day parade. You could hate it or love it. You're already trying to make decisions in your mind. You're already turning your wheels about what is this author saying, right? And then, but that energy was better for New York. And so you're saying to your reader, I believe that this was good in the end. Like, so you're giving them this decision-making process they'll have to go along with, and you're giving them this invitation to follow your thought process. So that's part of the reason I chose this headline. So the other thing you want to do is write an outline. Okay, so I'm going to pull up a screen that I find very useful. So I'm just going to go to docs.new. So that's a really quick way to open a new document in Google. And I'm just going to title it, I used to hate the Labor Day parade, but that energy was better for New York. So I have my title, and what I'm going to start to do is write some of the major parts, the major like chronological parts of this essay. So the first thing I like to do is decide on an anchor story. So my anchor story is going to be when I was 9 years old and attending the parade. And in the anchor story, here are some of the visuals I want to convey. I was too short to see over the throngs of people at the parade, right? So like that's a strong visual. Like I was too short. I didn't know how to get around, right? And that's a big part of how you start to set the scene for an essay because a reading experience is a visual and emotional experience. The words are one part, right? Unlike a poem, like an essay is something where, I don't know, an essay is something where you have to start to convey emotions in a way where people stop looking at the page or realizing they're like decoding and deciphering the page. So, what I try to do in essays is put an immediate visual as part of the intro. So, that's why my anchor story is super important. Um, and it's I was 9 years old and attending the parade was put with my mother because my mother is a big part of the story. So the first visual that I put out there, and actually I'll make this a little bigger so that you can see it on your screen. The first visual that I put out there is I was too short to see over the throngs of people at the parade. And, just to give myself notes, I'm going to say there are thousands of people attend every year. And then, find the number, right? Because that's just a little factoid that'll show, you know what you're talking about. You have some authority in what you're saying. The other thing I want to talk about is color. Colorful flags, because like I said, it's a heritage celebration of Caribbean nations, right? It's a heritage celebration. So talking a little bit about how those nations are part of my experience as a young person. It's like, this is how I'm learning the world. This is how I'm learning world culture. I'm seeing flags everywhere. So colorful flags of Caribbean nations. Um, what else? I was too short to see over the people, but I did see colorful flags. And I can also talk about smells. Like, so we have sights so far, colorful flags, throngs of people, and I'm going to talk about smells. So jerk chicken, curry, um, dal, which is an Indian dish that Caribbean people make. Um, we can also talk about unpleasant smells like um, garbage or alcohol on people's breath and body, right? Right. So I always forget how to do this. Okay, there it goes. So now I have my anchor story and it has some details where it's like, I'm 9 years old. Um, we come to the parade and this is what is happening, right? Um, the other thing that I want to start to talk about is why was I going to the parade? What did it mean to the people in my story? So every story is about relationships, right? And I'm going to get back to Medium, but we're writing our outline. And I'm going to pull up this title, How I Write Personal Essays for Money on Medium. Okay, so my name is Drew Breeze. I'm a writer. Here's some of my handles. On my Medium page, I write personal essays about coming of age in New York, as well as about pop culture, race, romance, and relationships, which gets me back to my outline point. So in my outline, what I'm trying to establish is some of the features of the story. What's bringing you through this experience? Why do you want to read this story? So the first thing I want to do is show you that I'm a writer who's going to put you into a visual and sense space. So I talked about smells, sounds, smells, sights, and now we're going to talk about sounds. So I'll talk about the steel pan drummers. That's a form of Caribbean music. I'm going to talk about soca music. I'm going to talk about thundering audio sets, right? Because they have these amazing and huge sound systems, like need trucks in order to bring the sound systems, and you have people dancing on top of the trucks. So these are visuals and these are sense writing elements that I want to bring into this, so I establish a tone. But I also want to do something with the internal experience of the writer, the voice, which is me. So with a personal essay, there's so much opportunity to show people what your experience is, but also to bring them back into their experiences as a human being. So one of my essays on Medium is similarly about growing up in Brooklyn and going to a dance hall party. Dance hall is a very, very popular subgenre of reggae. And when I was growing up, when I was in high school, I used to go to a lot of dances where dance hall would play. And so this has been a big part of my memory experience. And I had to bring other people into that memory. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And sounds, right? Sounds, audio sets as big as a house, right? Or a truck, which is what they're on. Then I want to talk to people about my internal experience as well. So that was my external experience. But the internal experience is that I was a shy, reluctant kid. So parades were scary and confusing, right? So how do I describe that? What is the thing I want to tell people about me being shy and reluctant? How do I bring it back into an internal experience that they can relate to? So as a shy, reluctant kid, the main thing I remember is that we used to go to the parade in these Lincoln Town cars. So in New York, in the era I was growing up in the 90s, uh, late 90s, early 2000s, they call it the late 1900s. That's what I heard that some generations are calling the 90s. But anyway, so in the late 90s and even in the early 90s, because this is probably a little bit earlier, we used to take Lincoln Town cars. This is before Uber. And the livery cabs in New York, which are like private car services, they were all Lincoln Town cars. Like that was considered like the standard car for getting around New York. And all I can remember about those cars is they smelled like leather cleaner and just it's really unpleasant. And I always had motion sickness. So I would get into those cars. And that was another thing about that era is that people smoked a lot. So they smoked indoors. This was before there was a smoking ban indoors. So people would smoke inside of their cars. So that's one thing I want to kind of talk about in the experience that is my internal experience, which is I had motion sickness that took over car rides. Um, and so, what else do I want to show about that car ride? Um, there were ashtrays. There were ashtrays in the doors of Lincoln Town cars. There were creaky, rusty trays to stick your bills into and pay. Seats were cracked leather. The air freshener, the pine scented air freshener was queasy and overwhelming. So this is me trying to set more of a scene for this part of the story, right? Now getting back to Medium. So one thing about Medium is that people come to either read a great first person experience, a long form story that has like a lot of detail, a lot of maybe research, historical value, and there are some amazing journalists on Medium. There's a guy named Markham Reed that you can check out on Medium. There's a guy named Tim Denning who talks about building a business as a writer. There are many. Katanya Harrison's a great Medium writer. She is an amazing journalist and essayist. And some people write great long form, but Medium as a platform, it's actually best for medium length, right? So I don't think that's why they named it that, but it's part of like um extending from Twitter. It's like if you had a Twitter feed, but it was like a little bit longer in characters. So people want to spend like 4 or 5 minutes reading. And they don't want to necessarily like do too much ingesting unless it's like very easy facts that are related to something they're trying to do. So if you're doing a blog post like this one, like the one I'm doing, you want to kind of like get in and get out, right? So I want to talk about the experience, but also I want to like lay out this claim of like why I used to hate the Labor Day parade, and now I am, appreciative of it. So I've already let people in on how this outline looks, right? And actually, let me make the text a little bigger so you can see it. Let's see if I can make the text bigger. So my anchor story is I was 9 years old and attending the parade with my mother. So that's the first story. And I set my anchor story. I'll just let you know how that looks. Set my anchor story. I was 9 years old and attending the parade with my mother, right? Because I was a kid. I could only go places with my family. Then I was too short to see over the throngs of people at the parade. So that's an uncomfortable experience. The parades are not made for kids. Thousands of people attend every year. So I make a note to myself to find the number. There's colorful flags everywhere. There's jerk chicken, curry, dal, garbage, alcohol. So there's smells, there's sights, smells, and then steel pan drummers, sounds, soca music, thundering audio sets as big as a house or a truck. I was shy. I was a reluctant kid, so parades were scary and confusing. I had motion sickness that took over car rides. I'm really laying out what the experience is and why that would be miserable for a kid. And I'm doing all of that in my outline. So this is something that will help to guide you as you write in Medium specifically. So I'm going to jump back into the Medium page, the draft, which is I used to hate the Labor Day parade, but that energy was better for New York. So this is the title, and the subtitle is going to be like how I learned to appreciate the past and culture around me, right? So highlight that, and I use this little thing, and you see how it makes it into a subtitle. I can actually zoom into that. See, it says the title case this size, and then the subtitle is this size. So I learned to appreciate the past and the culture around me. So now that I've got the basics of the first part of my essay, I'm gonna go into this outline real quick and make sure that after I set up this first part with the anchor story, that I go into what my claim is. So the claim is that energy is better for New York. So what does that mean about the energy then versus the energy now? So energy then, right? And what I want to say is there were big, diverse groups all over Eastern Parkway. And right there, I can just list some of the groups: Jamaicans, Badians, Trinidadians, and what they represent. And also, you want to lay out who are the characters in the story. So mine is like mother and her sisters, because that's who raised me and why they got excited to go to the parkway. And in that note, I'm going to put they were immigrants and looking for signs of home. They were young and energetic. They had friends there. And so the energy then is reggae was a worldwide party music. Energy then, I could go with my friends once I was a teen, 17, 18. Right? So that's the energy then. And then the energy now, talk about the big image, which is like police officers everywhere, a post pandemic world, right? So after the pandemic, people weren't outside as much, right? People really were kind of learning how to be outside again. And so in this outline, I want to talk a little bit about that, like how hesitant parade goers are and how much they remember about not being able to go outside. And then also, police are not part of the parade. They're trying to limit it and usually have the tough job of keeping crowds at bay. And the energy now is also that there used to be a lot of violence, and there was violence even at this year's parade. So, um, violence and disruption have stained the legacy of the parade. And I'm going to talk about how I learned in high school not to go to neighborhoods where gang activity would play out during the parade, right? So I'll show you how that outline looks. I'm gonna show you how that outline looks, and then I'm gonna jump into one of my favorite tools. So let me just make this a little smaller, right? And then I'm gonna show you one of my favorite tools. All right, so maybe you haven't written an essay before, right? There are so many online tools and apps, but one of them that I swear by, and I can show you right now, is called Hemingway. So Hemingway, I'll bring it up on the other screen here. Hemingway is an editor that helps you to keep your writing simple. It is something I swear by. So I'm gonna show you Hemingway and how it looks. So on Hemingway, you can write sentences and it evaluates how complex your sentences are. So right now it's at grade 0. If it goes up to like grade 8, 9, 10, that means that some of your writing might be very complex. And ideally, you want your writing somewhere around a 5th or 6th grade reading level, because that's the level at which most people read. But it's also the level where some of the clearest writing comes through. So what I want to talk about is my mother, right? So I was talking to my mom on the phone in the wake of this year's parade. I don't know how long it's been since she attended, but I guess a couple decades. The Labor Day parade is a young person's affair. You dress up, you dance until your legs are jelly, right? And so, see if I can make this bigger for you. I don't think I can make this much bigger, but if you see right here, it says grade 5, right? That's what it says about the grade level of the writing, which is pretty good. You don't want it to be, again, like a high 8th or ninth grade level. What you want it to be is something that's really readable. And Hemingway helps you to do that. So one of the ways it helps you to do that is it keeps your sentences short. If your sentence is very, very long, it highlights it red, right? And it tells you this sentence is very long. Even some of the mid-length sentences that I play with, which are probably like, I don't know, 25, 35 words, it'll highlight it yellow to just let you know, like, hey, getting a little long here. What are you doing? You don't want it to get too long. So the basics of Hemingway are, they're just guidelines. So if you've never really written before, you can start to use Hemingway as like a guideline for how to write in a simple and clear way. So that's like technique, right? So technique is really important. What you want to do is have a mix of technique and of your own unique voice. So one of the things that I try to infuse in my voice is a lot of dialogue in my stories. I don't go usually a full paragraph without thinking or adding some dialogue to a story. So that is also a way you can keep the reading level pretty simple. It's like when people are talking to each other, that sets up a scene in your reader's mind. So I'm going to show you a little bit about what I mean. Um, so, like in my outline, I said I didn't want to be in the parade. I didn't want to be going, and my mom was taking me. So, first line is, I think I need to stop and get out. Soon reach. My mom urged. Just hold on, Naman. If you feel sick, open a window. You will be fine. I can't open it, I said, as I struggled with the rotating knob, with the rubbery, how about this? Not rubbery, with the stuck knob on the door. All right. So what I'm doing is setting up the two characters in this essay. So even though it's a nonfiction story, even though it's kind of like loosely pulled from my memory, it's got to have characters in it. You need some sort of conflict. You need a character who wants something. And my small boy self wants to get out of the car immediately because he's fed up and he's feeling sick and nauseated over the different smells in the cab, which is something I can go into for my outline. So I'm going to pull up my outline and try to remember some of the details that I included, right? So some of the details are, I had motion sickness, right? So we're starting to establish that in the dialogue. But then I also put, there were ashtrays in the doors, and the kinds of cabs they were Lincoln Town cars. and the creaky, rusty trays you stick your bills into to pay. And seats had cracked leather. Those are all details that should be included in these first few passages. Again, you're setting the scene. So at first, I'm just talking really loosely about, what that parade is and how I viewed it. And now I can get into some of the details in the actual piece itself. So I'm going to hop over to the piece in my Hemingway app. And let me make sure that I save this, because you don't want to be in a position I've been in before and want to save something and forget that you didn't save it, and then your computer shuts down, especially because I'm live streaming, right? So in Hemingway, I'm just going to save it real quick and call it Labor Day Boyhood, and just save it so I have it. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about Medium. So on Medium, there are lots of different types of writing. And sometimes you'll go in for a certain kind of writing and you'll find another kind, because it has so much variety. But the main thing that's true about all successful writers on Medium and Medium writers who are making money is that they're very clear and they break up their stories. So it's an easy read. It's like, imagine Reader's Digest. That's a classic American magazine that's built for readers to take in short amounts of content, like little stories that have a moral or something you can learn or a fun factoid that you didn't necessarily know before. Reader's Digest, like making it very accessible, right? So far, what I've done is, just to recap parts of the video, I've targeted one reader. So I know who I'm writing to. This particular story, I'm writing to my mother because she'll understand it. She's someone who's very familiar with me. She's someone who's familiar with these memories. So even if it didn't happen exactly as this happened, she has a memory of it, and she's going to connect whatever emotions and sentiments go along with the Labor Day parade that she has. The other thing I did was set an anchor story. So the first story that I'm setting out is what it was like for me at 9 years old to go to a parade with thousands of people, how it was scary. It was overwhelming. It was, also colorful. Like, so it crashed the senses, lots of stimuli, lots of things I'm trying to understand all at once, and they're all coming at me at once. And so my anchor story is part of my outline. So what I want to do is write an outline that's true to my experience, but also that starts to make a claim, right? So the claim that I have in this headline is, I used to hate the Labor Day parade, but that was the energy New York needed. So it gives people territory or grounds on which to agree or disagree, to engage. So I say, hey, I hated it. I start with a really strong emotion. That's what you want to infuse your headlines with. And this is a piece that I want to talk about. You should always write and rewrite your headline. You should have tons of options for your headline, because that is the way someone's going to discover your work. And they may be discovering it for the first time. So I'm going to actually go to my Medium page so you can see some of the headlines that I've had that are, more successful. So just going to go back to browsing mode real quick, and I'm going to find this really cool rundown of my headlines. So I'm going to go to my Medium page, medium.com, right? And click on my icon. Go to my stories. And I can even show you my stats in a second so you can see that. So this is the way that you actually see your stories on Medium. You actually have to click into the write the stories icon like you're going to start a new story. And then here's stories, right? So you can see my draft at the top. I used to hate the Labor Day parade, but that energy was better for New York, right? Or one I'm working on. I tried 3 open relationship rules that always fail. So I'm really trying to establish intrigue. But in my published articles, I'm going to go through some headlines that have been successful for me. And this is to show you that you can write personal essays. You can write things that don't sound like everything else on the internet. People will click it and they will like it. Um, so this is one of my more successful headlines. It's called Me, Donald Glover, and Black Trauma Lovers Who Date White Women. It has a lot of commentary. I still get paid off of this article, right? And I wrote it, if you can look, it says April 19th. So I wrote this article in April, but that's how Medium works. Like you can basically write a piece of work, and if it is successful enough, people will click on it all year for 2-3 years. That's not my most popular article. Like I said, my most popular article is from at this point 3 years ago, and it still gets read. It doesn't get read as much as when it first was out, but it has a lot of value and people still read it. And so the other thing that happens is when people get to my page, they will see either articles that I have pinned that I can pin to the top of the page, like any other social profile where you want to keep certain posts at the top. Like I know TikTok you can pin, Twitter you can pin, Facebook in certain places you can pin. So it's just like a way of showing people like, here's the thing I really want you to read, or here's like my best thing, or here's my latest thing, but something that's important that's pinned. But my articles have paid me over time, especially when they're popular and engaging, and especially when they have a good headline. So that Donald Glover article that I'll go back to so you can see it is titled Me, Donald Glover, and the Black Trauma Lovers Who Date White Women. So I'm already kind of giving away some of the intrigue of what the story is about, which is, okay, there's some trauma and this person dates people who are maybe outside of their group. And that's what I want to do. I want to create conversation and curiosity about the thing that I'm writing, about the story I'm writing. And that essay, I think the first question that people are going to ask is like, what about you and Donald Glover and Black trauma lovers who date white women? What does that mean? Right? Like, how are you related to this person who's a movie and television star? What does dating white women have to do with it? What story are you going to tell? And what claim are you making? Right? Because like I said, you have to make a claim. And even though I don't make a claim in the headline, one of the things I do with that essay is I make a claim about what it means to date across racial lines, especially when you are writing about something like race or you have strong feelings about personal identity. Like that is a huge part of how I go about writing, which is to say, what are the claims? What are the principles I believe in? And then how do the stories kind of challenge that? Like get in between the layers, get into the different crevices of this point, because the headline can be absolute or even a little extreme. But the advantage of writing something medium length or long form is that now you can start to explore these different areas of the issue that aren't so neat, that might make people feel guilty or a little embarrassed or curious. And that's the point of writing, I think, is to provoke emotions in people that they didn't think that they would have. Common to a lot of my articles on Medium that earn money, that bring in subscribers like fans and bring in people who are going to be paid subscribers to the platform, common to those stories is they have a sense of intrigue, a lot of people are trying to figure out, where is this person coming from? But ultimately, internally, like, where am I coming from? What do I believe? How does this confirm or deny things I believe? How does this overturn or upend beliefs that I have? That's a huge part of reading and of taking in someone else's world. Reading is a very personal, like, one-to-one experience. And Medium is one of the great places you can do that. You can set out a personal experience that others are experiencing in a really similar way. So I want to talk a little bit about what you can expect when you go to my Medium page. So on my Medium page, I write about growing up in Brooklyn, New York. And that's kind of like the backdrop, but it's a lot about relationships. Like, what's my relationship to the self and the people who I grew up around? Um, what's the relationship between me and my romantic lovers? What's my relationship between me and my parents? And then beyond that, what does that say about all of our relationships, or the reader's relationship with their lovers or with their parents? It's all trying to connect the major relationships in life to these themes. So sometimes I use pop culture as an entryway, but you don't have to. Like, sometimes, like in an article I wrote about weight loss, I'm just talking about my own experience, and people got a lot of value out of it. And I'll show you the headline of that article. Find it real quick. So the headline of that article, which was one I wrote in November of 2021, is something that I think brought a lot of people in to the type of writing that I was doing. And it was kind of like an experiment, how things affect me and how they might affect you if you try them that way. So here it is. All right, I'm going to show you the headline. It's called, "I Transformed My Body So I Could Take These Nudes, But Weight Loss Wasn't the Problem." So immediately I hint at the fact that you're going to see something visual. There's going to be visuals in the article, right? The other thing I'm going to talk about here is that this article, it says published in Level. So Level is a Medium publication. That means that if you partner with Medium's publications, they can distribute your work to larger audiences. There are people who start their own independent publications on Medium. There are sometimes publications that Medium itself runs in-house, but whatever they are, if they choose your work to be featured on their publication, big or small, like 5,000 publication followers or, 100,000 publications, I've had my work distributed on both. They're going to get seen by a larger audience than just if you publish and you share your work. I'm not going to say only, I have 1,700 plus followers on Medium. Other than Facebook, which is friends and family, it's my largest social platform, and I hope to grow it more and more each day. This is a place where publications, curating your work, like choosing it, featuring it, is, as a writer, what you want to aim for. That means having topic areas that you're an expert on, having tones that you can achieve as a writer, and voice that you can achieve as a writer and only you can achieve, is really important, because that's ultimately what's going to get you paid. People are going to come back to hear what your expertise is, what your experience is, because, again, like I said, the more specific your actual work is, the more universal it is to the many, many people who experience some aspect of it. So I'm going to jump back into this draft and finish this piece and publish it on Medium today. And I'm going to throw the link in the description here. And I want you to ask questions in the comments about how Medium works. And I'm going to do my best to reply to every question. And the best way for you to do that is to subscribe to the channel, go click that bell, And I'm going to be on at least 4 times a week, blogging on Medium, here live on YouTube. This is the first cast. I really thank you for joining me. And I really hope you got value out of it. If you want to learn more about how to write personal essays on Medium, go to my Medium page, drewbreeze.medium.com, and see some of the things I'm trying there. I can't wait to see you again. And I'm going to be writing here soon. Peace.